let's discuss what it is and what the book says about requirements and estimating. So, agile requirements, they are basically kind of detailed, uh, just in time. So, what you do is in the very beginning, that is during feasibility time, you identify very high level requirements. For example, uh, the users should be able to search products, the users should be able to order products, and the users should be able to track delivery of products. And then when you go to foundations, you pick up requirements and you break them down further. So when you exit foundations phase, what you have in hand is you have a prioritized requirements list. This list tells us all the high level requirement baseline or agreed at the time of planning. To determine them, you can use something like facilitated workshop. You can call the business stakeholders, the technical teams together. You can go through all the the major requirements, break them down, but do not do them in detail in details right now. Just put high level contacts that what needs to be done. And then as you move into solution development time boxes, that is exploration and engineering, you pick up these high level requirements for each time box and then you break them further down. Like pick up search and then figure out how search works. Pick up payments and then find out how payments work. There are many ways of doing that. A lot of time companies use something called as user stories. So in Agile, you have a word called as user stories. Now, companies use like post-its or postcards or like deck cards wherein they start writing user stories, and the format is something like, as a uh, user or as a buyer, I need to search for products that I am looking for. I can say, I as a user I should be able to uh, see details about the product, like its features and technical specification. As a user, I should be able to set up alerts for any offers on these products. As a user, I should be able to save my search result. As a user, I should be able to do something. So what happens is, the way it should be done, you pick up something called as personas. Personas means the key users of the system. So you figure out personas for any system. Like if I'm developing this online product marketing place, then what I do is I identify who all is going to be using this system. So you have these end users, you may have your partners or retailers who will be using this system. You might have your IT team administration that creates users or does the maintenance of the system. You might have your sales and marketing teams who will be running some reports to see what products are selling well, what offers are going well, or how many products we sold for a particular category. Or you might have the logistics teams who have to dispatch the products as per to the delivery schedules. So you identify all such parties who are going to use these products. And then what you do is you make sure that somebody from these parties is able to or is representing these people in the facilitated workshops. You go through their requirements, you brainstorm, find out what they will expect from the system. So they tell whatever comes to mind at that time, and you write it on a post-it and you put all of them on the walls. And then what you do is, so you have on the wall all the personas. Like on the wall, first of all, I just write something like, I have a whiteboard and I write administrator, uh, consumer, retailers, marketing team, IT team, and so on. So I write all the people who are all the groups who will be using the site or who will be doing something about the site. Then I take any one of them and we do role plays. People tell their needs or requirements or problems, and we just write it on a post-it, and we put all the post-its under that name. So maybe I have got the consumer and have written all the user stories for that particular consumer. Now what I do is I might end up with plenty of such user stories. So in my prioritized requirement list, first I have an unordered list of requirements which are very high level, about 4 lines or 5 lines. Then what I do is I pick up their business value or Moscow, and I put them in an ordered list. So this is another activity which we can do using facilitated workshops and involving business visionary and the stakeholders. So we put some business value or a Moscow to it, and we rank the requirements, and then we sort it again. So now what you see is you see a ordered list of requirements. At the time of foundations, we agree all the high level requirements, and we also agree the priorities of those requirements thought about at that time. But what may happen is if the project has to run for 6, 9, 10, 12 months, and the priorities decided during Jan may not remain true by say September or October. So what we do is periodically, that is either at the end of increment or at the end of time box, we check the priorities once again. Is it still holding true for us? Has something else come up? If something else comes up, we just write it in the prioritized requirements list. We do the sorting once again. What we need to make sure is whenever we have any change request or any requirement related information, we should compare what was the baseline requirement list at the time of foundations. As long as the requirement was identified during foundations, we don't consider it as a formal change request. If you remember yesterday, we talked about two terms, the breadth and the width. The width, the breadth and the depth. The breadth is decided during foundations, and the depth is worked on during time boxes. As long as there are changes in depth, we don't consider it as change request. The team needs to make a decision about it. But when we have any requirement that was not agreed at the time of foundations, it is considered as a change request, and formal approvals are basically sought to kind of consider that requirement. We also use we involve business analysts, we involve business ambassadors, visionaries, and the stakeholders to determine requirements and to determine priorities. Once we get into the time boxes, the ambassador will help basically to reprioritize or to drop any should have or could have. Make sure that visionary is informed about any changes, any impact to high level requirements. That is the one that are marked as Moscow. Business ambassadors or advisors provide you with important functional, non functional information about the should have, could have, or even for must have. But they can't make decisions about must haves. They must consult the visionary for them. Facilitated workshops are one of the best ways to get people on board and to get to understand their needs and then also confirm the needs from them. One of the good thing in Agile is we have too many feedback loops. So when we take requirement, we quickly make something and show it to them so that it conforms to their needs and it meets their requirement, based on which we can define the next course of action. Estimating and measurement is also something that we need to look at. For example, how you estimate and how you measure. Now, estimating is again a gradual kind of a exercise in Agile. Just like requirements are first identified at a high level in feasibility, and then a little more breakdown and detailing during foundations, and then just in time development and detailing during uh, time boxes. Similarly, estimates when we are at the feasibility time, we make outline plan, and the outline plan tells us about months and overall efforts and costs. So it gives you a ballpark estimate, something that you can use as a starting point to decide: are you willing to spend this much amount of money? Are you willing to spend these many efforts and timelines to deliver the product? So it gives you an idea to start with. But what you do is, as you do more planning, as you do some work, you can go and check your previous estimates, and you can then start making better estimates about your plan. Time boxes also helps us in making sure that we can check our estimates and we can plan the next set of time box using how teams performed in the previous time box. So if I had a team that had basically 100 days effort, to complete, let's say, 100 activities, but at the end of 100 days they could complete only 80 activities. So in the next time box, what I do is, instead of giving them 100 activities, I might try to give them 90 activities. This time they completed again 80 activities. So I know they are working at a speed of 80. So they convert 80, they can complete 80 tasks at a time. So you can just adjust your expectation according to the teams. How many tasks to take within a time box, and the priorities we do just in time. As you see on the diagram, we have got these various phases: feasibility, and then we go to foundation. But before that, we have a go no go point, wherein the stakeholders decide whether it is good to go to the next phase of our project. And then after foundations, we submit the stakeholders with the delivery plan, the business case, and the overall solution. They again decide whether to go into exploration and engineering or not. If you have milestones within your exploration and engineering, you might have further go no go points based on risks or based on any decision making points. When you do feasibility, you make something called as outline plan, and as part of outline plan, you typically have 8 to 10 requirements at a very high level, and the estimates given to deliver those 8 to 10 requirements are not basically confirmed one. They are not very accurate. They may have very large kind of deviations. Like, I can say it will take me 100 days, or it can even take me 200 days, because I don't know what exactly you are looking for. So once I spend some more time with understanding your requirement, I can give you better estimates at the end of the next phase. So you keep refining your estimates as you move forward on the project. When you complete foundations, at that time you know more about the system. So those high level 8 to 10 requirements are now broken down into uh, detailed requirements, like not very detailed, but you break them down into sub requirements, you can say. So 10 requirements now becomes about 80 to 90 requirements. Like I said, search is broken down into how you what kind of search results are you looking for, and kind of the requirements related to search. So you have 80 to 90 kind of requirements at the end of foundations. And when you go to time boxes, you take the group of requirements or the set of requirements, give that in the time box, and deliver them. So you again break them down further into more information to figure out functional and non-functional requirement of each of those requirements. Functional requirement means what's the specification of business, like users should be able to select the product they are looking for. Now, for the product, how fast that product should be shown, how fast the website should work, what kind of results are be shown, how many products are to be shown on one page, what colors and fonts should be used. Now, that is basically non-functional, about scalability, about user friendliness, about reliability, about performance, about availability. All of that are non-functional requirements. So we need to clarify between functional and non-functional requirement. Non-functional requirements will be tested, and the business requirements will be checked by the ambassador and visionary to see whether the desired functionality has been delivered to the business. As part of exploration and engineering, the teams basically create detailed requirements or gather requirements with the help of visionary in the beginning of the time box, and then at the end of the time box they again show the demos of what we have achieved. There is a word called as velocity that is used in the Scrum world or in Agile world. Velocity means at what speed the requirements are being completed. So it is something like you use something called as story points. So when you start your foundations, you collect all the user stories. So you write down all the user stories. Then what you do is you do the ranking. So you have ranks, for example, must have, should have, could have, or you can use business value. So first collect 100 requirements and then sort them with the priority order. And then what you do is for each of them you have some story points. Now, story points is something similar to sizing in software projects, or if you have heard about function points in software projects. Story points basically is not an effort indicator, but it just is a rating given by teams. maybe based on complexity, maybe based on size, maybe based on some kind of arrangement within that company or team, like comparing two stories. So if I compare Bangalore, sorry, if I say compare Mysore and Bangalore, then I can say Bangalore is bigger than Mysore. And then I compare Bangalore with Delhi, and I say, well, Delhi is bigger than Bangalore. So you know there are three cities, and what are their sizes? Just like that, we take each story size, so story, and we size it. Is it small, medium, or large? Some companies, some people prefer to give small, medium, or large. Some people give some other rating like complexity, simple, medium complex, and very complex. And few people they give numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, or 1, 3, 5. Then they use 8, then they use 13, then they use something. So you can have either numbers or you can have complexity ratings. Velocity means within a given time box how many story points are being completed. So let's see how you do the scheduling of the project. Let's say we are in foundations and you are the visionary and I am from the development team. We had a facilitated workshops attended by your team and our team. Now you tell me all the requirements about the website. We listed all the requirements. We have, say, for example, 100 requirements identified. Then I ask you, could you rank them? So you use some logic, like how much value this particular requirement generates in terms of revenues and profits, or is it saving any cost for us, or is it legal requirement, something like that. So you use some logic and you tell me the priority. So what we do is, if I am using an Excel sheet, first I write down all stories, then I write down all the ranking. We have sorted it, and now we have all the ranks. Next step is for my teams. What we do is, so I've got developer, tester, business analyst, technical architect, and everybody together. We probably, I mean, in Scrum world, there is a game called as planning poker. We can use something called as planning poker, wherein I give deck of cards to all my team members, and we flash first story like users should be able to sort searches, and then everybody has to give some rating to that requirement. See, we all come from some experience. We may have done this before. We may have our own understanding. So what we do is each has 13 cards with them, and each card uh, has some number like 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on. By looking at that story, by listening to what business has asked, what requirements they have explained, each person is given some time to think about that story and to give a rating. But they don't tell the rating. They pick up the card that they think defines their rating, but they don't disclose it. It is kept blind. And then the scrum master or the agile coach or the project manager or the team leader, whoever is undertaking this exercise, asks the team, could you now tell us what is your rating? So everyone opens it. Now let's say I've got four people in my team. Somebody may have it as 3, somebody may have rated it as 5, somebody may have rated it at 8, but somebody may have rated it as 21. So what happens is 21 is not the number of hours or days, but it just tells how complex or large we think this story is. Now, if there is too much difference between different team members, then obviously, even before we start working, we know the teams have some difference in understanding. So we clarify and we make sure that there is no large variation in these numbers. Now, what I do is I go through all the 100 user stories that you gave me. For each story, I note down the lowest rating and the highest rating and the average rating. Once I have rated all the stories, then at the at the 101th row of my Excel sheet, I sum it. So I use the sum formula and I do the sum of minimum story points, maximum story points, and average story points. What it tells me now is, you are with me so far, right, Dharmi? You are able to understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes, but I was thinking the flashcards that you use, are those the cards that you make it yourself, or is it the cards that we play game with?
Ah, no, 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 not the ones that we play with games with. There is something called as Fibonacci series, yeah, which is like
Sorry?
there is something called as Fibonacci series, which is very famous, which is like one, three, which are like very odd numbers. What you do is you take one, and then you add,
Yeah.
you have the next number as three, and then you
Hmm.
basically keep adding the two numbers and add one more to it. One, three, eight, so five, eight. So it gives you a distributed numbers, and there are defined
Okay.
numbers. Okay,
I don't
so
know about this.
there is a very famous series basically. That's what
Hmm.
the people have used to define estimates. Okay, sorry, the sizing.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it is, I mean, it is available, and what I will do is I will just send you some link from where you can see. Basically, there are 13 cards. Okay, if you see it from the
Hmm.
top, same design, just like you play cards on top, you have some design like you might have some flowers or some city or something, some
Yeah.
uniform design
Yeah.
on the top. But when you turn
Hmm.
them in real card, what you have is like you might have 10, 7, 8, 9 of something, right? Instead of
Hmm.
that, when you turn these paper cards, you have some numbers written on them. You might have 0, you might have 1,
Hmm.
you might have half, you might have 3, you might have a question mark. So what it means
Okay.
is, we are doing a workshop. Everyone has 13 cards with them. For each story, we display it on the whiteboard, and then people discuss a bit, and then they pick up what, how do they rate this card, okay, and they put that card,
Yes.
and then at the count of one, everyone turns their card, and then we write it, we note down what ratings we have received. As long as people have given 5 or 8, it is very near, so there is not much difference of understanding. But
Hmm.
if the variances are very high, then that it's really different understanding between people, so this needs to be sorted out fast. Apart from that, if
Right.
there are any stories, like for example, payments module, and most people have given it a rating of, let's say, a higher rating than, say everyone has given a rating of 80 or 100. Now these are called as large stories, and then you call them epics. What it means is, we shouldn't have, like, you can have a rule, like you can say no stories will go beyond a certain number, like 21. All stories should be below 21. So if any story come more than that, what you can do is you can ask people to divide it into further requirement. That way you have manageable requirement. If anything comes out to be 100, that oh well, okay, that's a project in itself, that's very big requirement, can we just cut it down into some more requirements and then rate them again? So you identify epics, you identify stories that are manageable. Once you have done ratings to all your 100 requirements, let's say, on your list, then we find out what's the total size that we have got. So I do the summation, and I see, well, okay, all 100 stories were given some story points, which we agreed between the teams. Some have got 3, some have got 5, some have got, sorry, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. Then what we do is, we see the total. Let's say the total has come down to, let's say, 600. Okay, so if the total has come down to 600, you say something like, we have got 100 stories, and the total story points we have is 600. Of this 600, you might have some kind of data analysis, like how many are simple, medium, and complex. Then what you do is, uh, generally, if you have been doing project management or you have been collecting data in your company, you might have some kind of estimates, like uh, how many story points are delivered within each time box. So people who have been using Agile, they basically may have some information, like the company I worked with, we had 4 weeks time box, and we had some rate, like 30 story points per time box. So you have, say, 30 story points per time box, and you have total 600 story points. So you have 600 divided by 30, so you have 20 time box. Each time box is 4 weeks, so 20 into 4, so you have got 80 weeks, or 80 so yeah, so 80 what, 80 weeks of project. 80 weeks divided by, you make, I mean, how many months, like 4, so you have 20 months of project, which is about more than a year. So it just gives you a starting point about, based on my previous experience, based on how we perform in this company and the team dynamics. If I assume 30 or 40 story points, and if you have 600 total story points, it will take us usually 1.5 years to complete your project. If we run a time box of 1 month, then we usually turn around 30 story points. Now this is only a very high level estimate, because we need something to start with. If you don't have any numbers as such, like I don't know whether it's 30, 40, 50, you can just assume, well, okay, I have absolutely not done this before. It's like I've never been to, for example, from Bombay to Bangalore in a car. All I know is it's 1500 kilometers, but I have never been to that road, so I can't tell you how long it will take me to reach there. But I can start with some estimate. I can say 3 days. And in the first day, based on my experience, I can tell you, well, if it is 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, whatever. Similarly, when you start project, you can say, assume we have 20 story points each time box, and if you use 2 weeks time box, then how long it is going to take to complete the project. Because it is inspect and adapt, it means when you finish first time box, you count how many story points were delivered. And then you look at, well, okay, we delivered 40 and you assumed 20. Well, okay, let's see if that was very simple one. Let's do another time box. At the end of second time box also, you got around 30-35 story points completed. In the third time box also, you completed about 30 or 40. So well, okay, 20 was very modest. Our average is coming out to 35. Then you start using 35 as a story point to revise when the project will complete. You keep looking at all these things. If yours was on a very higher side, then you start taking it at the lower side. So well, okay, must have, should have, could have, how I'm going to prioritize. These story points helps us understand the velocity of team, that is the speed at which we are going, how many story points we are able to deliver. Please remember, story point is only a number to understand sizing and complexity. It's not efforts or number of days. And it's nothing new actually. In most software projects, companies use something called as complexity estimates, or companies use something called as function points. It's similar concept in Agile. It's just that they call it story points. A story point is nothing but a number given to a particular story, and you derive this number based on comparing this with the previous things that you have done. Like if it is user logon functionality, I can give it a number 3 based on some kind of a logic we use within our company. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But do you also do that practically?
Yeah, actually, and it works. It's quite easier to start with some estimation, because I mean, if somebody gives me a project and says how long will you take, I have no basis to tell them how long it will take, because to tell them how long it will take, I will need to know all the requirements. Then I need to know all the people who will be available. Then I will need to find out how much each person will take to do what, and then I need to find their availability, holiday plans, and everything. It means for a project which will take 1.5 years, I might take more than a month to tell you the exact plan. But that plan can even
Yeah,
change when somebody leaves the project or some new requirement comes, isn't it? So
right.
nobody is going to give you 1 month to plan. So to quickly tell some estimates, people use these kind of techniques. Yeah, and then you keep adjusting to these techniques. It is as good as I give you a big book or that agile project management book. If I give that book to you and if I ask you, could you tell me how long you will take to read this? What will you say? I mean, can you give me a
Yeah,
number?
depends. Yeah, it depends on the page, how many pages are there, and my reading speed, right? And on that
Actually,
basis, I can give you the number.
yes, but to start with, you will need to give something, right? How will you do that?
Right.
So you will say, okay, there
Yeah.
are about 300 pages. Assuming I take 500, 5 minutes for each page, 300 into 5. That's about these many a number of hours, isn't it? Minutes. And then you divide and
Yeah.
you tell me. But you might be wrong. You
Mhm.
just started giving, you just gave me an estimate. Some pages might take 2 minutes, some pages might take 8 minutes. Or it is even
Yeah.
possible that you might take, on an average, more than 5 minutes. So what can happen is, if you give me an estimate, let's say I will take 600 minutes to complete this book, and then when you have
Hmm.
done 20, 25 pages and you realize that you are actually taking 10 minutes to read each page, and at that rate you won't finish by 600 minutes but 1200 minutes.
Hmm.
So what you will do, you will tell me, oh well, sorry ma'am, estimate was wrong, I think I will take 1200 minutes. But if I say no, you said 600 minutes, I can't give you more than that, then what you will do, you will become selective about which page you read in details, which page you can just quickly go through, isn't it?
Right.
This is exactly we are using for the projects. To start with, I need to give you an estimate, so I just use some assumption. And what I do is, once I start doing something, I keep checking my estimates and I keep informing you how I am performing, and at that rate what to expect from me. Because timelines don't change, we need to change the scope. So it is not advisable to commit estimates in the very beginning, because nobody can tell the future, like what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen, team dynamics, requirements and everything. Start with some range and then try to refine your range and keep adjusting the estimates. So
But
here,
then,
yes.
how soon in a project are you able to give an estimate?
During outline planning, you give very high level estimate like 6 months or
Okay.
$1,000 or $10,000. So, and it could be between. So, general good practices in companies are, they give some range. Like I can say, it can take 5 to 6 months. So you have 5 or 6,
Yeah.
and it can take between 10 to 20,000 pounds. So you have a range for cost, and it can take about 4 to 5 man months effort. So you have range. Now, what you have to do is, once you know a little more, then you have to be specific. So that
Yeah.
1 month variance should come down to some weeks, and later on it should come down to days. So as you start going into details and details, you can't keep saying it could be plus minus 1 month, it could be plus minus 10,000 pounds. That 10,000 amount or the 1 month should keep coming down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So requirements. Let me just quickly summarize. Requirements in agile projects should never be pinned down in the beginning. At the time of feasibility, we should know high level requirements and note them, around 8 to 10 high level requirements. And then when we go into foundations, using the business stakeholders, we break them down into about 80 or 100 requirements. These are all user stories. They are all documented in the prioritized requirement list, and they are ranked using Moscow. And then we baseline the requirements. When we go into exploration and engineering, we use time boxes. And the time boxes, basically, when we start, we pick up the requirements scheduled for that time box. And we take each requirement and we identify the details about it and we deliver it. Detailing of requirements is left until you start the development, because that way you can reduce the number of changes. Apart from that, when you pick up one requirement, you can give more focus and more details. Now what happens is, if you have any change request and if it was already part of the baseline requirements list, it's not considered as a change request, but it can be decided by the teams themselves, because it's a depth that is being added. If you get any change request which is not part of that baseline, then you consider it as a deviation or way, or kind of addition to change it to the scope. That should go through proper mechanisms, approved, and then only be included. Requirements. Prioritized requirement list captures all requirements ranked in the order. It is owned by the business visionary. Should have, could have decisions can be made by the teams within the time box with the help of ambassador, whereas must haves are only decided by the visionary. So if there is any impact on a must have, like I can't deliver this must have within this time box or within this increment, then the ambassador, the team, should inform it to the project manager who involves the visionary to see what to do with this problem. We also talked about the estimates part of it. So when you start, as part of feasibility, you make something called as outline plan. In all types of project management method, one of the thing that is common is all project management method recommends that detailing should be avoided. That is, you do not give exact estimates in the very beginning. You give ranges. So when you are in outline, you give a range of months, years, or efforts or cost within which the project can be completed, and this range is used by the stakeholders to see, is this project doable? Can we fund this? And are these timelines acceptable? When you go to foundations, you know more about the requirement, know more about the teams, more about the technology and solution.
Ashish, I have a call.
Yeah,
Can we stop for a little while?
sure, sure, sure.
Thanks.
Okay. So agile planning is more about the various levels of plans, what to make in that plan, and what kind of estimates we should have. We have one principle: demonstrate control. Demonstrate control actually means uh, what kind of plans do we have, how confident we are on that plan, do we check the progress, and do we react to the progress if it is not working as expected. We use something called as inspect and adapt, that is at the time box levels, at the increment levels. To make plans, it is recommended that we do collaborative planning, that is involve everyone. Traditionally, project manager makes a grand project plan, which is then delegated to teams. Can you do it this way? Here, we are taking a different approach. Project manager makes overall plan, but the planning to how to deliver it is left to the teams. We need to consider about how quality will be met, how we deliver what customer wants. Quality in most companies works at two levels: process level quality and product level quality. Process level quality means, do you have good processes in place?
Ashish,
Yeah,
are there slides for that?
yeah. Here is. Oh, sorry, you are not able to see them.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Can you see them?
Yeah, now I
Okay.
can see
So
them.
yeah. So basically, this is the one that we first talked. This is the first slide. So when we start agile planning, we talked about the teams should use collaborative approach for planning. So teams, project managers, business stakeholders, they should come together to make the high level plans, that is delivery plan and the governance and control. Then what happens is, instead of project manager making a detailed plan, the project manager delegates time box planning to the teams. Teams decide how to deliver the work that has been delegated to them. We avoid detailing in the beginning. We do detailing just in time. That is, task level planning is done in time boxes, whereas deliverable and high level milestones are planned as part of delivery plans. Facilitated workshops are a great tool to make plans. When you are planning, you should consider about how you are going to meet customer objectives in terms of quality. Like, how do you make sure you deliver fit for purpose products? To deliver fit for purpose products, there are two things that most organizations practice. One is process quality and another is product quality. Process quality means which type of procedures and frameworks and processes and guidelines you use in your company to deliver projects. Like a lot of companies in India, they are CMMI 5, or they also have this ISO certification, and they have their own quality management system. What it means is, when a project comes, how they do the requirements analysis, where do they document it, how they get it reviewed and approved, where do they keep the review of comments, how they do the traceability of changes made to the requirements. So they keep a lot of documentation and they follow a lot of processes, and these processes are also audited by third parties. So saying is one thing and doing is another. So what they do is they make sure that people not just say we are going to do it this way, they also do it. So you get someone to just keep checking them. That's process level. Process level quality ensures that people have a defined approach and structure to do the work, that they follow it as well. So if you have a good process structure, there is a there is increased scalability, predictability and reliability. So you know, well, okay, we have been, if we follow these processes, it works. But if you bypass them, there might be problems, so you make sure they are followed. And then you have product level quality, which means when people follow processes, they create something. Like I follow a process of identifying your requirements, and when the requirements are completed, I design it, and when the design is done, I create a product. That is, for example, a registration page. And then I showed that registration page to you, and you will check, does it conform to my requirement, does it do what I want, does it take the mobile numbers, does it send a registration mail? If it does everything, it conforms to your requirement. So product meets customer requirements is product quality or solution quality. And whether you are doing good processes and procedures to create good products is basically process level. Most companies in India follow both of them. Testing people ensure product or solution quality. Quality assurance people, they assure process level quality, like reviews and audits. We need to balance both. How Agile builds quality? It basically engages users and stakeholders, and at the outset, we take requirements and acceptance criteria. We make sure we involve everyone through facilitated workshops or forums and understand what are their expectations. And as we make things, we keep going back to them to take their feedback and check how they liked it, or if there are any comments or improvements or defects. So we go and solve them. This is like validating from them. Did I meet your requirement? Does it do what you actually want it to do? Planning considerations also involve, what are you trying to make? Is it a product that will be re-engineered later? For example, I need to quickly introduce something to the market, and then later on I'll make some improvements and some kind of new features. But at this time, I want something that is quickly delivered. May not be a perfect product. Or do you want the maintenance to be as less as possible? That is very high quality product. Remember, if you are trying to make a very high level quality product that does not require much of maintenance, then you have to carry out lots of tests, you have to do lots of reviews. That may actually delay your first release date. So you have to think between what is your objective for development and maintenance of the product. I'll give you one example. We were developing one product, yeah, about 2 years back, and this was like this was like a product that does some kind of presentation, yeah, some time of some. It shows some kind of dashboards and reports and all that. Now we ask the customer, well, okay, how are you going to use? For example, if I develop this all these reports, now many times users will log in. So if suppose you are going to sell this reports feature to your customers, then you have this product kind of, the contract types, like one customer can access 5 reports, and within those 5 reports they can access 3 features only. And then there are other customers who can access 10 reports, so on. Now in the reports also, you want to conditionally show based on the type of contract. There are two ways to implement it. I should make it such a flexible design, such generic design, something like a normalized database design or something like, which basically is scalable. Then I need to do a very good design from technical point of view, database point of view, and from the design point of view. This takes long time for me. This takes good resources as well, and it has to be reviewed and tested as well. If I do all of this, I take 2 3 additional months, which means you might not finish in July, you might finish in October for the first increment. But if your objective is to get started in the market, and you may say, well, okay, right now just don't worry much about this, because we are anyway going to replace this application by some more engineered and better quality product very soon in the next year. Right now, I want to give something to the customers. If that's the objective, you might say, in that case, we will have to hard code. Is that okay with you? And they say, yeah, yeah, of course. I just want to get it completed, but it should work. You should find out such kind of requirements from the user, maintenance friendly, or you want quick delivery, what kind of quality expectations, is it really feasible to deliver that quality within the time. We set such acceptance expectations of stakeholders. These actually impact your kind of delivery schedule, so this needs to be understood. The first plan that we prepare is during feasibility, and that's called as the outline plan. Outline plan basically gives a high level skeleton of the project, like how many months, how many the milestones and the efforts. But the outline plan actually, if suppose your project is going to be 10 months, okay, and let's say the feasibility is being done in 2013. So if I start the project with you in 2013, we are, let's say, in November, and we are doing feasibility. What I do in my outline plan is I just quickly show you, uh, approximately we will take 12 months to complete your project, and if I start in Jan, around Christmas I should finish, and I will charge you about $100,000. I can have few milestones to be shown, like the all requirements analysis should be done by April, uh, development completed by June, testing around this time, so on. That's my outline plan. But it tells me in detail during December what's the schedule, how we are going to do planning and the foundations part. So while for the next year it doesn't give you details, it gives you detail for the immediate future. Yeah, because you can foresee it, you know what's going to happen, how and who. So next phase detailing is done in Agile and in every type of project management. Yeah, calling as just in time scheduling. The delivery plan I will then prepare during foundation. So I submitted to you my outline plan and feasibility report as part of November. That is as part of feasibility. You looked at it, you checked all the risks, you also identified if you are willing to pay, if the benefits are enough, we have people, and you can actually afford to wait till that timelines. You allowed me to go to foundations in December with my teams. 3 teams were involved, and we made something called as delivery plan. The delivery plan now tells us: first July, first increment; second increment, October 30th. So now we have refined our dates and timelines. It also shows we have 10 time boxes. It also shows each time box is about 4 weeks, and it also shows tentative requirements to be developed in each time box. So it can show January what we are going to work at, like search. February what we are going to work at. But this is fluid, this is flexible. It is possible we might change what we exactly do during that period. That's a delivery plan, a pretty high level plan which shows how many increments and how many time boxes, size of time boxes, and placeholder requirements to be done during that time box. It shows you overall structure and approach for time boxes. The size of time boxes is also fixed. It should be uniform. But you had asked me a question yesterday. But is it a rigid rule? Well, it should not be. In the next increment, you might want to change the size of time box if it doesn't work for you. Time boxes are not low level plans. Time boxes are very high level. Low level, sorry, delivery plans are not very low level. They are high level plans, whereas they are broken down into time boxes plan by the teams when they start individual time boxes. We have another plan called as deployment plan, which is basically done as part of exploration and engineering. In fact, as part of engineering, and deployment plan is prepared by the solution development team. It tells the solution development team how to release the software in production environment, or how to ship the product. It talks about the various steps required, like installation scripts to be run, their order, backup, restore, validation. Also talks about training, documentation, training to people, knowledge transition to support people, what changes have been made in the design. All of that is actually part of your deployment plan. One other thing deployment plan also talks about is benefit realization plans. That is, when the project is over, as part of post project, what kind of reviews should be done, and also talks about who does the review, when, and what they are going to measure and how they are going to report it. Deployment plan planning is done as part of engineering phase, but it is executed as part of deployment phase. That is after engineering is completed, when the solution is ready to go live. Time box plans, other hand, are prepared by the teams, the solution development team. What they do is they take up the requirements, they take up the delivery plan and look at it, and then during the kickoff time of the time box, they look at objectives, expectations, and they check the team availability, bandwidth, and the tasks. Time box plan shows tasks, priority, resources assigned to the task, like must have, should have, could have. You can show them in your on your time box, and then this is discussed with optionally with the project manager. Time box plan is updated by the team leader. It is reviewed each day when the team meets for the daily stand-ups. And when you close out, you check how you performed against that plan. You make separate time box plan for each time box, and on the closeout time, you make time box review record to see how we delivered against the plan. Like time box review records, I said, these are the ones that you keep as part of outputs. Uh, Typeboxman also provides information to the PM about the task and people who will be working, and the dependencies, reviews, milestones, and so on. Created, as I said, by solution development team, maintained by team leader. Now you have various ways of doing it. You can use Microsoft Project for this, or you can use your whiteboard for this. We have something called as whiteboard technique. So what we do is, on the whiteboard, we have like columns, four columns: week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. For week 1 we have like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we say, so we should just show on the like bars, yeah. Monday to Wednesday, task 1 and the person name. Tuesday to Friday, task 2 and the person name. So we have all the plan visible. Each day when we meet near that whiteboard, and we see, well, okay, today is Wednesday, what all tasks should have been working. So which tasks have been started, which couldn't start, which are in progress, which are completed. So you can just go and tick it. You can use actually those charts to show what has been done so far, yeah. Now, it's all done by teams as part of daily stand-ups. Planning products, in a nutshell, what we have as part of foundation, we have outline plan. As part of as part of feasibility, we have outline plan. As part of foundations, we have delivery plan. We decide how the development will be done, and then we have also governance plans that tells how we are going to monitor the progress and delivery. Exploration and engineering, this belongs to the solution development team. They use delivery plan, and they create their own time box plan for each time box. At the beginning of time box, towards the end of time box, they create something called as deployment plan to be used during deployment. That is how to go live. But deployment plan also contains something called as benefits realization plan, which could be used in post project to confirm project benefits. Some kind of top tips on agile planning: always involve solution development team when doing planning. Apart from that, make sure they feel they are the owners of the time box plans. When you make delivery plan, it is again a good practice to involve everybody through maybe workshops. Make sure that should have, must have, could have are understood, agreed, and shown, so that you know what must be done within each plan. Plans are subjected to change. You just need to make sure that you recognize the change. If it is to the depth, the teams can decide. It is to the breadth, then it gets escalated to the visionary. You look at the progress of plans, you see the velocity or the completion status of tasks, and the team productivity, and you can adjust the time boxes. Yeah, so efforts and dates can be sorry, the efforts can be adjusted. If you think you are not performing with a good rate, you might want to work towards the scope prioritization again with the visionary. That's quickly about delivery planning. Yeah. And what we now have is, I mean, the key topics of the book are done. What needs to be done next is, I want you to